There is a story of a professor who traveled a long way to visit a Zen master to learn of Zen teachings.
I'm tired.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome. Please come in. Please sit.
Thank you.
So I understand that you have come to learn of our Zen teachings. The place that we should begin is to recognize the importance of ethical living in Zen.
Yes, ethical living. I love talking about ethical living. In fact, I've written a book on it. You know, there are 4 thoughts about that, 4 schools of thought, 4 theories of ethical living.
And the professor proceeded to deliver a long, somewhat laborious lecture on the 4 categories of ethical theory and the efficacy of each one. When the professor took a breath, the Zen master said,
I see. In Zen, the correct motivation for saying or doing anything is very important, and therefore we try to only say what is helpful.
Well, of course, only what is helpful. But, you know, again, there are lots of theories on that, and there are several that I find flawed.
And again, the professor launched into a long, learned speech on the different theories of motivation.
I see. Would you like some tea?
Well, yes, I would love some tea. Whoa, 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 you're spilling it all over the place. Can't you see this cup is filled? There's no room for any more.
Why, yes, I can see that. Why, yes, I can see that. And can you also see that when you are so filled with your own ideas, that it is impossible to hear more?
Feel the Zen, yes. When we are filled with our own ideas, we can't possibly hear more. This month, we are looking at the theme of minding the mind. And today we're going to look at our minds as vessels. And the question is, how filled are they? And more importantly, with what are they filled? With what are our minds filled? Are they so filled with untruths that there is no room to hold the truth when we hear it? That's a big question. So big, I think I'm going to say it again. Are our minds so filled with untruths that there is no room to hold truth when we hear it? Now, 2 terms in there that you may not exactly know what I mean. When I say, when we hear, do we have so much untruth? What does that mean in our minds that we can't hold truth when we hear it? What does truth mean? So this, I'm putting you on notice, is community participation time. This is community sharing and community gathering time. So what I want to know from you, briefly, and yell it out, raise your hand, and then I'll repeat it so it can be heard on the microphone. Tell me, somebody give me an untruth that might be hanging out in someone's mind, not necessarily yours, but, somebody that you know, your partner or your best friend, or, not you, but somebody else might have an untruth. What could be an untruth hanging around, filling someone's mind? I'm not good enough. Yep, yes. There is not enough for everyone, certainly not enough for me, right? Okay, yes, Devonna. Life is hard. Yes, Chris. Oh, thank you. There. And there it is, and there it is, and there it is. Yep, very good. Thank you for that. Yes. There's only one path to God. Very good. That's a good one. Thank you. That's a good one. What else? Give me another one. Come on, keep going. Yes, Sheila. Oh, I'm privileged and you're not. Oftentimes it's you're privileged and I'm not, is what some people think. But yes, thank you. Good. Yes, Susan. There's never enough time. What else? Yes, Sherry. I am separate from God. Yes. What's another one? Yeah, I don't see. I can't do it. Thank you. That was Susan. Yes, thank you, Susan. I can't do it. Anybody else have another one that fills? I don't have enough money. All right. Those are all untrue. Oh, yes, one more. I saw a hand. Did I see a No? Yeah. Yeah. Whoa. All right. You just got me on that one. There, a little something in there. And that's a belief, and that is a belief. There is that belief out there, and that is a false belief. That's an untruth. Yes, Cherie. All right. All right. Separate but equal corners we are going to go into right now. Our minds can be filled with all of those untruths. They absolutely can be filled with all of those untruths. Ernest Holmes says, the mind is a magnet, and we attract that with which we identify the self. In order to get the most out of life, we must learn consciously to change many of our habitual thought patterns. In other words, in the language of today, we must learn to empty out the vessel of our mind of all those thoughts that are untrue. Untruths. This may not be easy. He actually said this is not easy, but I'm going to soften it a bit and say this may not be easy, for our old thought patterns cling with great tenacity. But being thought patterns, they can be reversed. So we can empty the vessel of our mind of untruths, so that when we hear truth, there will be room to receive it. So now, again, this is your turn. Talk to me about truth. What are truths? Capital T, truths. Give me some truths. I am one with God. Thank you. I can love myself. I do love myself. I am love. What's that? I have no fear. I'm fearless. I have enough, more than enough. Yes, Susan. God is all there is. I am beautiful. Oh, let's just say that one out loud, all of us. I am beautiful. Thank you. What else? Yes. I am worthy. Thank you. Yes. What about them? We have them, yes. Infinite possibilities are available to me today. Yes, what else? Give me another truth. We are whole, perfect, and complete. Everything is a miracle. Ooh, do you feel the difference in the energy of the first set of things we said and these that we're saying? These are truths. Are our minds open enough, emptied of all that other stuff, to be able to receive these ideas when we hear them, when they come to us? In Science of Mind teachings, or I should say our Science of Mind teachings, will absolutely brainwash us. I am so glad that we have, yes, thank you, Jeannie, one of our wonderful board members. Now, if you're new, relatively new to us or to this teaching, you may think, aha, I knew it. I knew they were a cult, you know. If you look us up on the internet, you'll see that we're, that's out there that we're a cult, because we do brainwashing. We do brainwashing, but not in the way that one would think that's cultish. We're, believe me, so not a cult. The definition of a cult, of course, is, this organized group. We are so disorganized we could never be, ever be. That's a joke. That's a joke. All of it was a joke. But nonetheless, we can brainwash you, though, which means to wash out of your brain the negativity, the fear, the false beliefs. If you allow that to be, so that they can be replaced with a belief that God is all there is, that love is all there is, that peace and power and joy and perfection are all that exist, because they are God, and God is all there is. That's good brainwashing, if you ask me. If you will allow your brain to be washed, these teachings will show you to help you see, to feel, to know that you are one of God. And I don't say anymore one with God, because one with God suggests there's God and me. One of God, one as God, one this, me, you, one manifestation, one individualized, perfect manifestation of the one power. If we would but open up our eyes, these teachings will brainwash us to see that good is everywhere. Our good is right there. We just have to open our eyes to see it. Have you ever had the experience, and I've had it like 3 times in the last week, and at this moment I'm not remembering any of them specifically, but of 3 times this week, something has been right there and I didn't see it. It was like, it was there and I missed it because I was looking over here, or I was looking for it in a different way, and there it was. Does that ever happen to you? Yeah, that is a metaphor for the fact that God's good, our good, is waiting for us. We just have to open our mind's eye to see it. These teachings, if we are willing, will show us to live from a place of, and to stand in a place of absolute gratitude. Gratitude and thanksgiving for the good that is already available. And if we are willing, these teachings will brainwash us to surrender, to let go, to turn it over to God, and to accept the good that is already there through surrender. So those are some powerful brainwashing thoughts, are they not? Yes? Good. Were they good? Okay, good. Let me ask you, did anybody hear in those anything other than the words that I said? You heard the words that I said, but did anyone hear anything in those 5 hint things that I just shared? Good. Good. I'm glad to know that it wasn't just first service asleep, because they didn't get it either. Did you hear that? You didn't hear that. It was very soft up here from a spiritual life coach. Good job. What I just shared with you were the 5 steps of a spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of prayer. We offer a very specific form of prayer called spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. I just gave you the 5 steps of them. I'm going to do it again really quickly. The first step, which is the first place of brainwashing, is to know that there is only God. And God is all good. Peace, love, joy, power, essence. God is the creative energy of all life. God is. Step 1. Step 2. These teachings help us recognize that we are one of God. I am God in expression, unique and perfect in my own way. You, unique and perfect in your own way. That's step 2 of our spiritual mind treatment. Step 3 opens our eyes to see the good that's already there and to accept it. We call it realization. To accept that it is already there. And the next step, gratitude or thanksgiving, helps us deepen into the acceptance that it is already there by feeling grateful for it even before we actually see it. And our last step, release, is surrendering, letting go, trusting the universe. So now you saw it all, didn't you? You got it? Right. If you don't know about spiritual mind treatment, if this is like, what the heck is she talking about? Be sure to take our foundations class the next time it is taught. This is a public service announcement brought to you by Creative Living University. Spiritual mind treatment is a powerful way to wash the brain of things that do not serve, so that they can be replaced, so that you can hear, so that you can embody truths that do serve. It is said in the scripture in Romans, many of you know this, do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be, what's the rest of it, do you know? Transformed by the renewing of your mind. Those of us who came from a Bible background know that. I actually didn't ever learn or hear the first part of that verse. It's Romans 12:2, by the way, in case you want to know where it came from. I just heard, be ye renewed. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. But I love that beginning of it. Do not conform to the pattern of the world. Is the pattern of the world not a pattern of negativity and can'ts and don'ts and you're not good enough? So I had somebody in first service leave after service and tell me, going through the line, he said, I lived my life. I grew up in a family that all I ever heard of, can't do it, don't do it, you can't make it, it'll never happen, negative, negative. He said, I've spent my adult life reprogramming my mind. Right. So the pattern of the world can be very, we want to be transformed by renewing this mind. Ernest Holmes says, we are all immersed in the atmosphere of our own thinking. This decides what shall take place in our lives. We are all immersed in the atmosphere of our thinking. This determines or decides what shall take place in our lives. And you've probably all heard the quote from Henry Ford. We use it here all the time because we just love it, and it comes from, not from a spiritual person, quote unquote, but from a regular guy. Well, he wasn't a regular guy. He was a pretty bright guy, but nonetheless, he said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. Now, there's great power in both of those sentences from Ernest and from Henry. Very, very, a lot of power, but it becomes really powerful for us when we practice remembering the power that's in those words. When we practice remembering the power. It's just one thing to go, oh, yeah, that's a nice sentence. I like that. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. Whether you think you can, whether you think you can't, you're right. Yeah, that sounds good. But do you really practice that what you're thinking is what you're going to experience in your life? That's a rhetorical question. But if our minds are so filled with that, we're not practicing that. Well, we're practicing it in the reverse. We are doing as it is said in, I think it's the book Illusions. I'm not positive. Richard Bach. You remember Richard Bach in the 70s and all those amazing books that I love Richard Bach. I read every one of his books before I woke up at all. But I resonated totally with everything he wrote. I loved it. And I think it was Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. That's my favorite book of his. I think it's in that book that he said, argue for your limitations and they are yours. So when we don't recognize the power that is, and when we're not living from the place of monitoring what's happening in our minds, filling it up with all this negative stuff, we're arguing for our limitations. We're totally arguing for our limitations. So one of the false beliefs, one of the untruths that you said earlier was the I can't. I can't this, I can't that, because this, that, and the other thing. There was a school teacher many, many years ago in a little town in Minneapolis who did something with her students. And we're not going to actually do this today, but I want to tell you what she did in the event that you might like to do it. And even if you don't physically do it in your mind. She, one day, had her students take out a piece of paper, 4th grade students, by the way, and she had them write at the top of the page the words, I can't. And then she said to them, I want you to write a list of all the things that you say to yourself that you can't do. Just write down everything that you think you can't do. And so the children wrote things like, I can't kick the soccer ball to second base. I can't do long division more than 3 numbers. I can't eat just one cookie. That's a truth, right? Okay, right. I can't stand my sister. That was another one that they wrote down. So she had them write down all the things that they couldn't do, and she did the same thing. She made her list as well. As the kids were writing, she made her list. And then she said, all right, students, now fold them up, bring them to the front, and she had there a shoebox. She said, bring them forward, place them in the shoebox. And so they did. And then she said, let's go. And outside they marched, stopping only at the janitor's closet to get a shovel. They went out into the yard, and she dug about a 3-foot hole, placed the shoebox in the hole, and then she said, all right, children, gather around and take hands. She covered up the hole with dirt and then said, friends, we gather here to honor the memory of I can't. While he was on this earth, he touched the lives of everyone, some more than others. His name, unfortunately, has been spoken in every public building, school, city hall, state capitals, and yes, even the White House. I can't is survived by his brothers and sister. I can, I will, and I'm going to right away. They are not as well known as their famous brother, but perhaps someday, with your help, They will make an even bigger mark on the world. May I Cant rest in peace, and may everyone present pick up their lives and move forward in his absence. Amen. So would it be wise for you to have an I Can't funeral? An I Can't funeral. I'm seeing some heads go, yep. Because here's the deal. I can't, or any of those other things that we are filled with, absolutely shut off the creative flow. They shut off our connection to the divine. They shut off any kind of idea that might possibly come to us that either furthers us on the expansion of our lives, that helps us create our dreams, that solves a situation that may be in front of us. When we live from I can't, or I'm not worthy, or any of those things that you shouted out, we cut off the flow. We cut off our connection. We cut off our good. And our good comes in the first way through ideas. And that's the first thing that gets cut off when we're living in the I can't mode, when our minds are filled with all that those negative untruths. Ideas get cut off. And it is said, and I love this idea, that ideas are God's first currency. I love that. Ideas are God's first currency. Everything started with an idea. Everything started with an idea. These Beanie Babies started with an idea. This pulpit, everything, you started with a divine idea. So if you're not connected to your divine ideas, this life is going to be pretty dull and boring and not very fulfilling. Give yourself an I can't funeral. If your I can'ts are standing in the way of what is possible, of what could happen, of what could the solution be. I've said so many times that many of you are probably sick of hearing this, but somebody out there needs to hear it because it's coming to my mind right now, and I didn't even say this in first service. But I have a phrase I've used many, many times, used it when we were attempting to buy this building for 6 months, and roadblocks were coming and coming. But the phrase I've used over and over, many of you could repeat it with me, is what would I do next if I did not think this is impossible? That's an expanding question. What would I do next if I did not think this is impossible? That generates divine ideas. And then you act on those ideas, and bada-ding, bada-doom, you buy a building that wasn't for sale that you can't afford. That's how it happens. So I want to share with you a testimonial. I love it when you guys give me testimonials. Thank you. Bring them on. Send me your testimonials. Send me your quote-unquote miracles. Send me your ahas. Send me your, this is how this worked in my life this week. I love getting them. And I got one this week from Fran Peck, who's sitting right back there in the back. Fran, just stand and wave so people can know there she is. Fran, you see Fran back there all the time. She's one of our amazing members who just has her little hands in pretty much everything around here, including right now she is on this spiritual life coach path or the practitioner path. Yay! Yeah, give her a hand. And she and her classmates just finished their first term in their second year, and it ended on Thursday night in an exam. So Fran was studying for her exam last week to prepare for the exam, for her test. And last Sunday, when she came into church, she wasn't feeling very good. And she said to me before service started, I didn't get very much sleep last night. I was in some pain, and I was just having some real challenges. And I think I'm going to find Susan Peacock, who is her spiritual life coach. Susan is sitting right there. I think I'm going to find Susan for prayer, after service. So this was the conversation that Fran and I had last Sunday. Now, here's an email I got from Fran this week. She said, Michele, I had the most profound aha this week. I met with Susan Peacock, thank you, Susan, for your sacred service, Sunday after service, and I was telling her about my sleeping issues Saturday night and Sunday morning. Yes, through tears of frustration and discouragement. So as I read this, just find yourself in here, because you will. She said to me, why didn't you call me? And I said to her, I'm not going to call you at 2:30 in the morning because I can't sleep. For whatever reason, no sense of both of us being up. To which she responded, I was up anyway. Honestly, Michele, it never occurred to me to call anyone about this. So here is my aha. Not only did it not occur to me to call Susan, I had just spent that Sunday, 2 services singing our congregational song, when I'm walking with you, I'm talking with God. When I'm talking with you, I'm talking with God. Oh, geez, it never occurred to me to talk to God about this. at 2:30 in the morning. Susan's "why didn't you call me" was the express message from Spirit, "Why didn't you call me?" That was a capital M. Why didn't you call on me? I sat in bed last night writing a treatment, and it occurred to me that I have never treated for this particular issue. I spent the better part of Saturday studying for an exam on this very principle, and it never occurred to me to use it at 2:30 in the morning. Seriously? Right? Do we find ourselves here? It never occurs. Oh, I could have had a V8. Do you remember that commercial? She writes, I tried to meditate through it, but not for what we know is the real purpose of meditation, which is simply to align our consciousness with Spirit. And I was trying to visualize my way through it, but in the end, I was trying to do this all myself, not talk to God about this. And by the way, I was doing an awful and an awfulizing job of it, such as I was saying, why is this happening to me? I know this biology and physiology. Why can't I heal this, etc., etc., etc. I then happened into a section toward the end of How to Use the Science of Mind, which is one of their textbooks, yesterday that took me from the consciousness of being someone else's practitioner to being my own. Realizing a shift in my own consciousness as I was embracing that concept. In essence, if I couldn't get my own consciousness wrapped around this condition, how was I ever going to see the truth for anyone else? And I couldn't expect Susan to always know this for me. My consciousness was going to have to shift on this, or I wasn't going to be any good to anyone. As I wrote my treatment and then read it back, I was working to put emotion, feeling, and belief into it. And I started to have one of those still small voice conversations. It was almost like God in her was saying, convince me, challenge me, sort of with me. Do you really believe in the power, the perfection, the wholeness of Spirit flows in and courses through and expresses you? To which I snapped right back, yes. Then the voice said, that is either the truth or it is not the truth. It is either the truth all the time or it isn't the truth ever. If you believe in this truth, then use it. In other words, act like it. In addition to the treatment, I found an old meditation tape yesterday that I haven't listened to in probably 10 years that had the most amazing guided meditation for both healing and sleep. There's an example right there. When we do our work, when we get the ich out of our minds through treatment, through using our other tools, things just come to us. This meditation tape, hadn't used it in 10 years, didn't remember that it had this visualization on it. She said, I totally had forgotten about that. Long story short, I treated, prayed, really treated, meditated, and visualized, and I slept better last night than I have in a very long time. No foot cramps. I don't even think I woke up. Michelle, my learning this week is this. My mind always works, and it works best when we actually work with it. When we consciously and consistently use these tools and principles, not just to pay lip service to them, for example, to pass an exam. You think I would know this by now. Sigh. Love and blessings, Fran. Give her a hand. Give her a hand. Thank you, Fran. So my question for you this morning, my friends, is what could you empty out of your mind this morning? What is hanging out in there? Okay, all right, I just heard a confession. Oh gosh, lots, right? Maybe it is lots. Maybe it's one thing that just keeps kind of hanging on because you've been in this teaching for a while. You've practiced this. You've been on this path. But maybe there's one thing that's still just kind of niggling in there. Is this the morning that could be the morning that you let that go, that you empty this amazing vessel of your mind out of that? So that spiritual truth, these things we've talked about today, can absolutely fill you. Would today be the day for you to do that? Because this is your life. It's your adventure. The dreams on your heart are yours to be made manifest. It is up to you. And you absolutely can do it. You absolutely can. You can make your life one of purpose, one of empowerment, one of joy. You can be a blessing to this world when you are an open vessel for Spirit and the truth. So let's anchor this idea in prayer. So I invited you a moment ago to think about what might today you choose to clear out of your mind, to wash out of your brain. to be brainwashed about. And if you did identify something, then bring it into consciousness as I offer this beautiful prayer that is a 5-step spiritual mind treatment, our greatest, highest, and holiest tool that we have. There is one presence and one power, one life energy, one life force, one essence that is good and only good, because it is God, source, universal energy. Whatever term, phrase, word you want to use, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we recognize that it is so, and that we recognize the qualities of this divine source, this divine essence, the qualities of love, power, peace, joy, abundance, wholeness, wellness, order, balance, courage, compassion, joy, kindness, and an infinite number of additional qualities. Because the truth is, in our humanness, we cannot begin to comprehend the vastness of the divine and of the qualities of the divine, but we do our best. And so just take a moment to feel in right now in this room, to feel into this vastness of spirit, the immenseness of infinite love, the grandeur of eternal abundance, the holiness and sacredness of eternal peace. It is awe-inspiring. And what is also awe-inspiring is the recognition that we are each unified with and one of that which God is. We are all that God is. If we define God as the ocean, we are that ocean in, that mighty ocean in the drop of water that we are. So I am this, and each one of us is this. God in form, God in expression. Here to make manifest the dreams that God planted in us. Here to bring those forth. That is why we are here. And so I speak my word into the perfect law that only and always says yes for each and every one of us who is in this room, who is watching us online right now, who listens to the podcast later, who watches the YouTube video of this, who listens online. However they get this, I'm speaking my word for them, for us. And that whatever thought is in our human mind that is a thought of untruth is this moment washed away by the turning to truth. That every one of those beautiful infinite qualities of God are ours and are available to us in this human physical experience. This is what I know, this is what I accept, and therefore this is what occurs in our lives. Right here, right now. Thank you, life, that this is so. Thank you, Source. My heart is filled with gratitude at how this prayer unfolds in our lives and how not only blessed we are, but how a blessing to the world we are. So with faith and with trust and with complete knowing that it is done, I release this word into the law. I release it. I let it go. I wash my hands of it. I am done. I have nothing else to do. I have given it over to infinite law, which is now at work. So I seal this prayer in my faith, in my trust, and in truth. And so it is.